Alright, hi guys. So this isn't a video that I anticipated having to make, if I'm completely honest, but it's rather annoying, but you know, it does pertain to stuff I've already talked about, so I figured I might as well tell you about the continuation of the tripod saga. I didn't think it was unfortunately going to get to this point, but sadly it has, because over the weekend, as good as that comp was, it was very slightly marred by one tiny incident, which in hindsight was actually not super tiny. It's the fact that my tripod broke, the one that I bought like 6 weeks ago to replace the other one that had broken, that I'd had for like 3 years or something. And so yeah, we were at the comp, and it had done like the first day or two, I think. Yeah, I think this happened on Monday morning that I noticed it. So it had been fine up until then. But as I was, just going about my business, I noticed that on the bit of the tripod that is the clamp, it has the actual bits, the grip on the phone, they like fold in, kind of like that, so that it folds flat and is more transportable, I guess. But one of those bits where it was on the hinge, there was like a really thin like metal pin that went in like through and like obviously acted as the hinge and like connected it, and that was like slightly poking out a bit further one end than the other end. And so I thought, okay, that's weird, I'll just push it back in, and it stayed there and it was fine. Except it obviously didn't stay there, because about an hour later I picked up my tripod, and that same piece that had the pin like coming out of it, that same little flap, that just completely came off. The pin had obviously fallen out somewhere. I think I did actually find it in the end. I saw it on the floor, but because it had completely come out, I didn't have any way of like getting it back in and getting it to stay in there, because like I didn't want to like glue it in or anything, like I would even try to glue it in or anything like that, because if I did that, it might not work as a like hinge, and it might have not just not folded down and up. So I didn't really know what to do, and I completely couldn't use it as the tripod. And unlike the last time when my last tripod broke, because that was a leg, I could still like, it still was able to hold my phone in it just about. And even at Brighton, when it completely gave out and like couldn't stand up by itself, because the clamp still worked, I could still put it in the clamp and then just kind of angle the tripod in such a way that it was a bit of a worse angle, but it still like worked. It kept my phone upright and I was able to just about film myself. But in this instance, I tried several times and there was literally just no way for it to support my phone in any meaningful capacity. So I was extremely annoyed about that. I was very frustrated, and I thought, fuck it, I'll just chuck it in the bin. So I did that. I took the tripod to Scotland with me and it has not returned. So that's, yeah, really rather annoying, because I spent, it was like a tenner or something. And obviously since then, I did this earlier today, I had to go back through fucking Amazon and all of the other places that I've looked to try and look for another tripod again. And predictably, I've had the same amount of luck as last time, which is to say very little, because almost every tripod seems to have like a built-in selfie stick, or is too big, or is one of those ones with like the bendy legs that I really don't like, because you'll never be able to get them in exactly the same height or position or stability as it like the last time if you fold it up. And one funny thing I did come across, there was one, I was briefly looking at actually just getting one that had one of those like selfie sticks in it, one of the extendable ones, and just accepting the fact that I was never going to need to extend it, because it did look like the legs of the tripod were actually quite small, and so if it was like completely retracted, I guess, if it was not extended, then it would still be like a reasonable height and not take up too much space on the table. So I was considering that at one point, and I found one that was about £4, and I thought, yeah, that sounds great. The issue is I need it for Euros. Euros is in less than 2 weeks, or I leave in less than 2 weeks now. And so obviously I was looking on Amazon, because I thought, can probably get a reasonable delivery time, and almost all of them were saying it would take like a couple of weeks to arrive. So there would be like some overlap between when the possible window of it arriving and me going to Euros. So I didn't really want to risk it, just in case, because I literally don't have a backup. So yeah, I was looking at getting the faster delivery, and one of them, this one, it was, yeah, I think it was like £4. Standard delivery, the cheapest delivery option was £5, which I thought was like, okay, that sucks, but it's still less than a tenner. It's still less expensive than the previous one, but it wouldn't have come on time. So I was like, okay, the more expensive delivery option will get there on time. I'll just see how much that is. It was £200. I'm not making this up. I don't know how it could possibly be that expensive for a £3 item, a £3 or £4 item, to arrive like, it was literally like a week earlier scheduled than the other delivery, which was worth £5. So I genuinely don't know what could possibly have been going on there, but seemed really dodgy. So obviously I didn't go for that. I looked at similar stuff and just didn't have any luck at all. And so what I've kind of decided, it was an idea that I sort of had last time, that I wasn't 100% sure if I wanted to actually commit to, because I would have preferred just a proper tripod. But what I've done this time is I've bought the top section, like the clamp section, just on its own. And again, I think this was something that I mentioned last time. For some reason, so many places like Amazon and the other places I've looked at only seem to sell, or like largely seem to sell, that style of tripod with the actual like fixed tripod legs, low down, small on the table, like all of that. They only seem to sell those in separate halves. So like the tripod itself, the actual legs that you can fold up, those are sold separately to the clamp that you hold your phone in, and they're all the same. Like they have a 1/4 inch screw, you can just screw it on, but it just seemed really inconvenient to have to buy it in two separate parts. So I didn't want to do that if it was at all possible. And I was looking at buying it in two parts because I didn't think I had any other choice. And then it suddenly occurred to me when I saw a particular type of one that it looked like the base was reasonably large compared to like the rest of the tripod. The base of the clamp, that is. So just literally just the clamp itself, and then the bit where you would screw it into the actual tripod, just the bottom of that didn't look the most unstable thing I've ever seen. And so what I've done is I've just bought that by itself, in the hope that when I put my phone in it, if I just, make sure it's not, a little like wonky or the wrong angle on the center of gravity and all of that, if I just make sure it's fine, then maybe it'll just hold my phone up by itself and I won't need to buy the actual tripod bit separately. That's the idea. I'd like to think that it'll work, and then there's like no possible part of it that could break. Obviously, that's a bit of a pipe dream, but I'd like to think so. This one was literally like £2.50 with free delivery. So, and it's going to get here on time, which is to say before Euros, and it's going to get here before Euros. So hopefully that's all right, and that this will be the end of the saga. If it somehow turns out that like I can't quite get my phone to fit in there without it falling over or something like that, I'll improvise a solution maybe, or I'll just suck it up and buy another, like the bottom bit of the tripod for it to work separately. I don't know. At this point, I just hope something works and that I can do it for cheap. So yeah, that's the next update to the tripod saga. I sincerely hope there aren't any more. I'm not planning for there to be any more, but if there are any more, of course you'll be able to count on me rambling about it. So yeah, there you go. That's it for today. See you tomorrow.